I mean,
similar, any religion where you find some part of it, you can tend to make that the orthodox and say, this is it. But it's all plays together.
yeah, I would agree with that. I think I've always uh, I've always like planting by the moon,
Yeah.
and certain things. Not that you ever have a choice exactly, but when you do, it's nice to be able to look up, you know.
Yeah, for
And
sure. I mean, I know for sure fishermen, they pay big attention to the moon to know when fish are doing what. And yeah, it's like even with the sun cycles, just the sun itself and like the angle of the sun and the in this, summer versus the winter literally controls the energy that we have because of melatonin and all that we have our light receptors in the back of our eyes and the amount of daylight in the day. There's a whole complicated science to it, but it's a proven science that, the cycles of the sun affect the cycles of your energy.
And,
Despite working, yeah, it's pretty fascinating when you start to looking deep into that stuff.
and the older calendars used to always put on there when it was going to be a good fishing day or a good plant.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because I thought it meant that was the day to eat fish and plants. That makes sense.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. From the almanac, that's how the
Yeah.
almanacs were based, right?
The
So
Farmer's Almanac, yeah.
yeah, and they didn't mess around like
oh,
that.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
the farmers knew. They call it the Farmer's Almanac for a good reason.
Yeah. Even like it's sort of a shame, but all the religions have co-opted all these astrological, you have Christmas instead of the winter solstice, you have Easter instead of the spring solstice, you have all these, and they're not on the right dates, it's just they've all been co-opted and
Yep.
made up by a wizard in the sky versus just looking at natural law. It's
Well, that's what they had to do in order to take over the people to get them to come to their side. When the church
yeah,
came in, they built the churches over the top of the old worship sites. And that's why when you're looking
yeah,
at ley lines, those are power points on the earth a lot of times.
right.
Mm.
Yeah. But the old astrological festivals literally relate to physical occurrences in the real world. It's a real thing.
Absolutely. That's where we get Stonehenge and
Yeah.
other, and even the what is it out in the Southwest? That is laid out perfectly on the
Yeah.
I mean, for miles and miles, and you're just thinking, how in the world did they do this? Yeah, that was incredible. They were much more intelligent and noticed what was going on in the universe than
Yeah.
people today might want to believe they could.
Yeah. I think archaeology is catching up with the fact that civilization's been around and maybe in different forms and different types of technologies, but much longer than we thought and much more advanced than we thought previously.
Hmm.
Or more than we've been taught, not
Exactly.
necessarily thought. We were
Yeah.
taught. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Even with some of the latest evidence about the Sphinx and Egypt and those types of things, it goes back much further. They just, they discovered Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, which, puts agriculture back another 10,000 years earlier. But the academic scientists want to hang on to their narrative, that's for sure.
with the physical, right?
Yeah.
Only gauging by the physical and what they can find, nothing else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that truth isn't passed down.
Beyond the physical, sometimes they had a problem interpreting some of the writings and some of the things they found, but that's gradually getting taken care of. They're starting to understand what was being written and said, and Nova and a lot of the programs on Channel 9 or it's 9 here in St. Louis, but PBS, they're bringing forth a lot of things that are being found in the archaeological sites.
Yeah, I think we're in the age of awakening. If you have eyes to see, you can start seeing a bigger world than you thought. Hey, Doc is possibly going to join a little later. He had a family obligation, so unfortunately for you, you're stuck primarily with me. but this is a group discussion, so that's the big part. We're just here to moderate it and just keep it moving and things of that nature. So apologize for Doc not being able to make it, but he's taking care of a family matter, and hopefully he can join us maybe around 7:30 or 8:30 Eastern time, 7:30 his time. But he did send me his overview. Of course, he's a diligent guy. He's not going to shirk his responsibilities. So I'm going to read the summary that he's given us from book 7, Spiritual Astrology. I always like to, repeat, I think most of us realize this, but, the course number and how they go through the courses, they correspond with different major arcana, and then, of course, with different zodiacal or planetary energy. So course 7 relates to Sagittarius. And, that meaning of that card is the charioteer or victory. Sagittarius, as we all know, is a lot about philosophical and spiritual truths. So it makes sense in teachings and things of that nature. So it makes sense that it is a book called Spiritual Astrology. So I'm going to read his summary here. If you have any questions throughout the process, I'll look for a hand up or something. Feel free to stop me during my reading if you have a question or anything like that. But then after I get done with it, we'll jump into the open discussion. Chapter 1 reveals humanity's spiritual legacy from ancient masters, just like we were sort of just talking about, who specialized in soul research. And that research rivaled modern material science. They recorded profound knowledge of the soul's nature, destiny, and astrological influences using a universal system. This universal system was pictographs in the 48 constellations, which is the 12 signs and the 36 decadents, and their myths, to ensure timeless transmission without blind faith, which invites verification through the book of nature. And as a side, that is certainly part of our tradition. We believe that the Hermetic tradition has been passed down throughout time by these constellations and these stories that are told. Although this chapter references the continents of Lemura, which is also called Mu, and Atlantis, there is not scientific evidence they have existed. Science or archaeology will not acknowledge these without real proof of their existence. We take it upon allegory until such is proven. The constellations were illustrated in order to map zodiacal influences, starting from the vernal equinox, the pictographs like the ram for Aries, selected for human and animal traits. Despite fanatical destruction of records worldwide, prehistoric stone monuments still endure, embodying the religion of the stars, such as dome mounds, which symbolize mental control, phallic shafts, which symbolize sacred love, dolmens, death as a doorway to higher life, and chromelex, planetary uniforces, uniting in the Brotherhood of Light doctrine, contribute your utmost to universal welfare. Chapter 2 explores Aries, the sign of initiation, or I am, teaching that courage, sparked like the ram's bold charge or a pioneer's first steps, builds leadership or impulsiveness, illustrating man's primal self-assertion. The decadent Cephas, or dominion, illustrates that the royal king wielding a scepter and a crown, showing that the soul claims divine authority. Initiation crowns the spirit with sovereign will. The decadent Cassiopeia, or enthronement, illustrates the queen seated on her starry throne. Vanity yields to earned exaltation. Courage earns the seat of honor. The decadent Perseus, or victory, illustrates the hero brandishing Medusa's head. Bold action slays fear's illusion. True initiation triumphs through fearless resolve. Chapter 3 explores Taurus, the sign of possessions, I have, teaching balance. Neither worship material wealth, golden calf, spiritualized via affection, nor neglect physical needs for spiritual growth. Render unto Caesar and God. Ancient stories, Moses and Gilgamesh, show converting greed to compassion. The first decadent, Lepus, references lunar mentality, fleeing materialism/fear via determination, and that fear is the great enemy. The decadent Orion references struggle, facing environmental planetary forces courageously, like King Arthur's Round Table harmonizes the nights and planets, overcoming limitations through their struggles. The third decadent, Auriga, references mastership, or the control of solar fire, sacrificing for others, protecting the weak, like Elijah's mantle. Chapter 4 explores Gemini, the sign of thought, or I think, teaching that thoughts are harmoniously linked like fraternal bonds, such as Damien and Pythias, Castor and Pollux, or David and Jonathan, and build fortune or misfortune, which is man's most potent builders. The decadent Ursa Minor, or intuition, illustrates unconscious mind contacts or truth via childlike naivete, such as Goldilocks finds a little bear's porridge by being just right. Truth is heard best in the sleep-wake transition, where only intuition contacts underlying truth. The decadent Canis Major, or fidelity, illustrates how character fuses the conscious and unconscious. The constellation Sirius warns of emotional floods and urges altruism over madness, such as hydrophobia. Stay true to the self and never false to others. The decadent Ursa Major, or reason, illustrates the objective mind pointing to truth, like the pointers to the pole star, yet overreaches at times and requires one to test psychic reports. Reason indicates truth and verifies the inner senses. Chapter 5 explores Cancer, the sign of receptivity, or I feel, teaching that emotions nurtured like a mother's care or a home's shelters build either sanctuary or instability, which is man's deepest sensitivities. The decadent Argo, or protection, illustrates the soul's voyage seeking safe harbor, like Noah's Ark shields from the deluge via divine guidance. True security comes through spiritual refuge. The decadent Canis Minor, or devotion, illustrates the loyal heart following its masters, similar to the star Procyon shining. Ruth clings to Naomi in unwavering fidelity, easily thought about as that loyal dog. Devotion to the higher purpose ensures the soul's welfare. The decadent Crater, or emotion, illustrates the cup overflowing with feeling, like the Holy Grail holds sacred essence to be purified. Purify emotions to receive divine grace. Chapter 6 explores Leo, the sign of rulership, or I will, teaching that creative power, expressed like a king's authority or a lover's heart, builds either dominion or tyranny, which is man's sovereign self-expression. The decadent Hydra, or strategy, illustrates a serpent's cunning cold beneath the lion, like Hercules battling the multi-headed beast with calculated force. Is still illustrating how true power employs wise strategy over brute might. The decadent Crater, or sacrifice, illustrates the cup poured out in devotion, such as a son's vitality offered on the altar of love. This illustrates the sacrifice of personal desire for universal good. The decadent Corvus, or authority, illustrates the raven perched on Hydra, enforcing divine will, like Apollo's bird delivers judgment, illustrating how righteous authority commands through integrity and fear. Chapter 7 explores Virgo, the sign of service, or I analyze, teaching that purity cultivated like a virgin's chastity, or a harvest careful gleaning, builds usefulness or criticism, man's discerning ministry. The decadent Corvus, or deception, illustrates the raven's cunning theft of the cup. Apollo punishes betrayal with thirst. Guard against self-deception. Truth demands vigilant honesty. The decadent Centaurus, or instruction, illustrates the wise centaur piercing the wolf like Charon, teaching heroes through disciplined knowledge. Service perfects through patient instruction. The decadent Buddhist, or harvest, illustrates the herdsman reaping with sickle. The virgin gathers wheat for sacred bread. Analyze, purify, and offer the finest fruits of thy labor. Chapter 8 explores Libra, the sign of partnership, or I balance, teaching that harmony forged like a marriage bond or a judge's scale builds justice or indecision, such as man's relational equilibrium. The decadent Buddhist, or judgment, illustrates a herdsman weighing the harvest. Divine justice separates wheat from chaff. Balance actions through impartial discernment. The decadent Drago, or temptation, illustrates the serpents coiled around the pole. Eve faces the apple of desire. Resists seduction. Equilibrium requires moral vigilance. The decadent Lupus, or sacrifice, illustrates the wolf slain on the altar. Centurius offers the beast to the gods. True partnership demands mutual self-offering. Chapter 9 explores Scorpio, the sign of desire, or with the keyword I desire, teaching that passion transmuted like the scorpion's sting into the eagle's flight rebuilds regeneration or destruction, like man's transformative intensity. The decadent Lupus, or conflict, illustrates the wolf impaled on the spear. Centaurus slays the beast of lust. Master inner strife through courageous confrontation. The decadent Ophiuchus, or struggle, illustrates a serpent bearer wrestling the snake. Hercules crushes passion's coals. Desire must be grappled and redirected upward. The decadent serpens, or mastery, illustrates a serpent grasped by the healer. Asclepius wills life force, transmute base urge into spiritual power. Should have restudied my Greek before I tried to pronounce all these Greek names in this book. Chapter 10 explores Sagittarius, the sign of aspiration, or IC, teaches that vision, aimed like an archer's arrow or a prophet's revelation, builds expansion or fanaticism, like man's far-seeing idealism. The decadent serpents, or temptations, illustrate the serpent twisting toward the crown as an arrow flies past the seductive coil. Aspiration must evade lower lures to reach truth. The decadent aura, or trowel, illustrates an altar's cleansing fire, like incense rising in fervent prayer. It illustrates how vision is tested and purified through devotion's flame. The decadent lyra, or inspiration, illustrates the harp of Orpheus, enchanting the beast. Apollo's lyre sings divine harmony. True seeing aspires through exalted expression. Chapter 11 explores Capricorn, the sign of ambition, or IUs, teaching that responsibility climbed upward like a mountain goat's crag or a statesman's duty, builds structure or rigidity, showing man's disciplined achievement. The decadent lyra, or persuasion, illustrates the lyre's enchanting strings, like Orpheus swaying Hades with disciplined art. Ambition persuades through masterful expression. The decadent Aquila, or vision, illustrates the eagle soaring above the peak, such as the bird Prometheus carrying divine fire. Responsibility sees far and claims higher purpose. The decadent Delphinus, or execution, illustrates a dolphin leaping to duty like Aaron riding the beast to safety. Practical action fulfills the climb with grace. Good. Chapter 12 explores Aquarius, the sign of universality, or I know, teaching that brotherhood, poured like the water bearer's stream, or a friend's selfless gift, builds progress or detachment, such as man's humanitarian vision. The decadent Delphinus, or encouragement, illustrates the dolphin leaping with joyful rescue. Like Arian singing to summon aid, universal love uplifts through cheerful support. The decadent Pisces Austrinus, or responsibility, illustrates the fish drinking the life stream, illustrating how the soul accepts cosmic duty. Knowledge serves by bearing the common load. The decadent Pegasus, or invention, illustrates the winged horse soaring with inspiration, such as Bellerophon riding to divine heights. Progress springs from liberated genius. And the last chapter, chapter 13, explores Pisces, the sign of surrender, or I believe, teaching that compassion, dissolved like the fish in a boundless sea, or a martyr's release, builds transcendence or escapism, which is man's ultimate spiritual union. The decadent Pegasus, or aspiration, illustrates the winged horse breaking earthly bonds, like Bellerophon ascends on fate's flight. Surrender lifts the soul beyond limitation. The decadent Andromeda, or liberation, illustrates the chained princess freed by divine love. Perseus rescues through selfless courage. Release comes from compassionate deliverance. The decadent Cepheus, or kingship, illustrates the crowned king enthroned in the north. Their soul reigns in spiritual dominion. True belief crowns the self with eternal sovereignty. So if you didn't sort of follow in this book, each chapter covers a sign, and then it goes through myths and stories for each decadent of that sign to help illustrate the energy present within that part of the zodiacal sign. So if you haven't looked at your chart, you can look there and you'll see sort of what decadent you fall in, and then you can look in this book and sort of get an even further detail to some of your energies present there. With that, thank you for bearing with me as I read that. Since I didn't write it, it was a little harder than normal. But if you have any questions or comments, I'd like to open it up and see what's on your mind.
I was following along with you with the book, and I was kind
Good.
of looking at it, and sometimes it jumped back and forth, but it felt good to be looking through it like this. And, you know, this is another one of the books that's 400 and something pages, and the Tarot, and there's one other one I think that I remember is 400 pages. So these are the longer books that really have a lot of really incredible information to retain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's also nice because they're stories. You know, they're stories that many of us are familiar with from our young age.
Yeah, to hear them told in a more spiritual and a deeper meaning, you know, really hits us in a different way too. And I wonder people who are reading these stories, if they have children and reading stories, if they can impart some of that without it being, you know, over the head of the children, or at least some of it, you know, so they don't think it's just all a fairy tale, because there is some spiritual truth that was written into those. You just have to know what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Most of these old stories, even modern stories, are all intertwined with moral lessons, either good or bad. So it's good we can think on that deeper level.
Yeah.
I'd been looking at there's a video on the YouTube page where I can't remember who goes over all those decadents. If anybody wants, she lays it out beautifully, all
Yeah.
the details of it.
Yeah, it's one of our most viewed ones. I think it's Lori Dixon, and it's one of our most viewed. It's a long one, but it really helps go through these in detail. Thanks for bringing
Worth
that
it.
up.
And what's it called? You said it's on the YouTube page. I started to write.
I'll get that to you in a second.
Okay, I didn't know the person who spoke originally, because I try to take notes when I'm when I'm in these classes.
I'm looking that up real fast.
Because there's so much on YouTube, we gotta, I have a quick question while
It's
you're
called Unlock the 36 Decans, Hidden Wisdom Within the Zodiac. It's on there, and it was posted on October. Oh, that's no. Let's scroll back up on me. It was posted on April 10th this year.
okay. Thank you. That's that sounds like that's the same, all the decans that are on the key in the,
Yeah, it is. It is, exactly.
you started talking about the 36, it's like, I'm gonna draw that and I'm gonna make that larger so I can see those easier. But I'm just amazed at it just, I mean, because I've done astrology for years, so that is just an incredible key, the way it lines it all up with the tarot, and I just love it.
Yeah, I have this chart. If anyone wants it, Vicky Brewer shared it with me. It's a little better than my spreadsheet that I use. And it sort of referenced, if you put your email in the chat, I'll send it to you. But if
Okay.
you, it's based on the tarot. But
And
as
I'll,
you can
yeah,
see, as you can see here, it has for each sort of card this, it tells you the decan it's in letters and sort of what that individual part in that card means, which is a pretty handy thing. So if you want that, just put your name in chat, and I'll copy that down, and I'll email it right after this. But it's also very handy for doing your own readings. If you look, the major arcana, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but the major arcana is up here along the top, and then on the side, and then it's sort of down here is like, so one, and then it has all the one of scepters, the one of cup, the one of coins, the one of swords. And then it has sort of in the what's written in there is the divinatory meaning. So for example, if we look at the one of scepters, which is below the magus, that means news, that card means news of a business opportunity. And then it has the actual decadent there, triangulum. And then the inner meaning to that card is activity. So that inner meaning is sort of the action, or sort of how you best manifest the energy that you're trying to get from that card.
thank you, Brian. I was gonna request that from you before, and at the same
Yeah.
time, I was gonna send you something that might be helpful.
So like if you see here where it says business partnerships for the three of scepters, it's interesting. The best way to get your business going is through propaganda. Also known as marketing.
Is this on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper? Or-
I think it's a legal page.
Okay, good, because I've got legal paper I can print on also. I was gonna send you all, when I was gonna ask you before, I made something up for myself a few years ago on weather astrology, how you consider what's the first most important, the second, and I made up a little chart for myself on the different what the different things are. Like one is like you're
Yeah, I have one of those too. Just send that over to me and we'll take a look at it and run it through. We like to do a few checks on things to make sure everything is accurate before we send it out, but send it over to me.
I appreciate that because I tried to go through the weather book and I'm thinking about doing some weather now because we have had incredible hurricane category 5 going on this week. So we don't even have that hit land very often. So I'm definitely going to do something for Jamaica and the areas in that way. Of course, right now I just heard that New Jersey is having flooding. They're having water down in the subways. So
Yeah, there's always flooding somewhere in the world.
now you
It's the way it works. We just hear about it all the time.
I know, but Brian, are you on the East Coast also?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I
Yeah,
hope
I'm right in Nashville where we had Hurricane Helene. So what questions or thoughts does anyone have, or anything else anyone wants to bring up?
well, I have a question. I think I mentioned when we did book 12, we went through that. We didn't have the book, so I've got this thick thing of mimeographed sheets of paper. So I'm going to buy book 12 from our store. I mean, where we have it. And I noticed that the front of it, the front of the book has something different than the Brotherhood of Light and as above, so below printed on it. Is that really what's on the cover?
Yeah, I'm not sure what, I'm sorry, Audrey, I'm not sure what you're referring to.
That's okay, because
Yeah, I know the books have gone through a lot of different sort of reiterations and things of that nature.
they would change
But the insides have remained pretty consistent with some minor, like moving stuff around and some formatting stuff just to get them to the current student format because it's a little cheaper to print them that way.
well, this was
But the
just,
contents remain the same, but some of the covers and stuff have changed over
well,
the years.
the contents were fun, you know, having one sentence be like a whole paragraph log. I love
Yeah.
the way Zane wrote. Listen, speaking of, I was reading through and somewhere it said that Zane wrote all the books except for 6 of them. And I want to know why he didn't write those 6. What are those 6? Who wrote them? And
I don't know, Peg, do you have any information on that? My understanding was that, I don't know if she can talk or not, but that he wrote all the books. There's
okay.
some other book, all the courses he wrote, but
I have not heard that.
Okay,
My
Yeah.
understanding is that Zane wrote all the books.
he
okay,
wrote all the courses.
and this was somewhere in the books. It might have been in 2021, 22.
Yeah,
I'll look again, see if I can find it.
yeah, he wrote, as far as I'm aware, and I've never heard anything different.
Yeah,
All the books and all the material in the books were written by Zane.
yeah,
Any request that they not be changed. If we wanted to add to them or anything of that nature, we certainly can, but not to rewrite them.
good.
Katie?
Sorry. Shit. I had it had been brought to my attention the signs. There's a few signs that start with the same letter. And I had just realized today that so Cancer and Capricorn and their opposites, with Aquarius and Leo, their opposites, they both have Aries and Libra, both of their opposites, right? That match. And then there's Sagittarius and Scorpio. But I was wondering if what all that significance entails. Like what's does anybody have any more insight about what that?
Yeah, I think one thing to sort of think about when it comes to those signs that are sort of opposite to each other on the chart are houses that are opposite each other on the chart. Those are always going to be in opposition, right? Those two energies are always, across from each other. So that's the aspect of opposition. So, you can look through the houses and see how that makes sense, like house 4 being sort of like your home and things of that nature, your family, and that's opposite your career, right? Because many times, as a famous businessman once said, I've determined you can be great at business or great at your family, but not both. So there's some of those things that sort of tend to always be in opposition to each other just by the nature of sort of what the energy is driving towards. And if you look at signs that, they're always going to be, no matter, where the planets are, the signs move and the houses stay where they are, they're always going to be a sort of opposing forces. So I think there is a lot to sort of think about through that. For me, as far as the starting with the same letter, sort of goes back to last week, look at the whole energy of that sign, and then see, hey, they both start with C, what arcanum goes with C, what does that mean, as sort of the first energy that goes along with that, is, I think, a good way to sort of, if you think about both starting with C, well, that's, card 11, which is the enchantress, which is a force or spiritual power. So if you think about Capricorn, that's the force. Capricorn really is out there in the world trying to build stuff that uses force. Cancer is a little different, but it still forces your emotional force. So you sort of can see how the even though it's Neptune doesn't rule either of those, but it sort of shows you, what that word means by that first impulse that the letter. So I think is really, I think, more related to chapter 6 and the meaning of a name. But I find it like you could even just get your cards out and spell out that name, because if you think about both Cancer and Capricorn, the second letter in those is A, which is about your will. So, you got this spiritual force, this activity, this power. And the next letter that comes in that word is the Magus, or your will, your ability to create that change in the world. But then you think about Cancer, it takes a slight turn with the N, right, which is more a Taurus card, which is more like the alchemist and sort of more like internally using that, versus Capricorn comes back with a P, which is more the star, which is hope. So you can just sort of spell it all out and sort of look. As a deep hole I can get into. I love putting the arcanums out with cards. And then really, if I look at the whole picture of every arcanum letter in that name, it helps me induce that emotion or direct my thoughts. So for personally, I think it's important to have access to all the zodiacal energies. So if I want to feel that Cancer energy, how do I get that feeling up? Looking at those cards that go along by spelling out that name, for me, is a great tool that I use to induce that emotional state in order to empower my thinking to manifest whatever I'm trying to achieve. I don't know if that necessarily answered your question, but it's just, I don't know. I think a lot of times we're like, oh, it's just this simple, big cipher there. If we can just sort it all out, we have the answer. I don't know if that's quite the way it works, but they're tools to help you tap that energy.
Brian, I feel like the signs that are opposite each other, it's a polarity. Like for Taurus, Scorpio, Taurus, the second house is like my possessions and what I have. And the eighth house is what other people, it's part of community property, like from a relationship, my money and somebody else's money. It's almost like they're part of two sides of a coin, but they're kind of a polarity thing, because
Yeah.
like people that I know that are of a certain sign, I sometimes see them exhibiting more of the opposite. And Katie, I see you, doing it. Yeah, yeah,
Especially with a stellium is what I've heard. When you
okay.
have a stellium, like internally you'll feel one way,
Yeah.
but yeah.
That's what opposition means. Opposite, opposition. They're always sort of in opposition to each other. I think someone else had their hand raised before. Ninty, did they put it down? I don't want to skip over you if you had it raised. If not, we'll go to Ninty.
Hi guys. No, I just wanted to mention that I always thought it was cool how Leo and the letter Q is only found in Aquarius, and it deals with rulership, and Aquarius is of the stars. So I always thought that was interesting that we found Leo over there in Aquarius.
Yeah, that is cool. It makes sense. The elder statesman, Aquarius, the grown-up Gemini.
He wants rulership, yes.
And Aquarius is can be very argumentative too, and think they're right, which is that Leo energy on the
True.
Yvette.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. I kind of I love astrology, but I actually had a different question to throw out to the
Okay.
group. I've been thinking a lot about ritual. Just even if it's a meditation ritual, do you think it's very important to establish a ritual, like, and why is kind of my question.
I certainly have some thoughts on that, but I'll open it up to anyone else first so I don't dominate the conversation. Anyone have any thoughts on using rituals and
I
establishing a ritual?
I heard from a root worker. She said, I do not have Jewish clients or Muslim clients because they're so um, ritualistic. They're so what am I trying to think?
Discipline.
Discipline. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. And that what that does you know, in your subconscious, just keeping things. I mean, the whole reason we have clocks, just keeping stuff in order, was initially, I'm sure, not supposed to be such a downer.
So our brains are, I'm thinking that I have a lot of scattered energies. And I keep thinking about doing a meditation every day or this or that. And I have a hard time with self-discipline like that. But I'm realizing my thoughts are very scattered. And I thought perhaps ritual helps keep us more focused. What do you think, everybody?
Ninti, you see your hand raised? Is that still raised from earlier?
No, that was from early, but I can chime in. I've heard that ritual gives you a kind of like a confidence, you know, a certainty that the outcome will be expected. Um, a confidence is what the ritual will give you. But I'll put it down. I'll put my hand down.
Oh, all right. And then Mark, and I'll come back to you, Audrey. Mark Doubleday. Did you put your hand back down? Audrey?
Can you hear me? I'm
Oh,
sorry.
we can hear you. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Most of you know I have a Masonic background, and ritual is the cornerstone of establishing those good habits, if you will, the physical, mental, the spiritual, and emotional habits that you need to it kind of like burns them into the wood, you know, that, you know, remember the wood burning kits, and you could carve and do things. It establishes a routine, a structure, the foundation, if you will. It's consistent. It doesn't fail. It repeats. And it's repeatable. The results that you get from practicing good ritual, the results that you get are repeatable. Other people can use those same formats and forms, if you will, and establish the same kinds of outcomes for them in a different frame, obviously, because it's an individual thing. But ritual is fundamental to community connectivity, if you will. We, as I think subconsciously as a culture, Americans have certain kinds of rituals, right? The Pledge of Allegiance, the Star Spangled Banner. I mean, you can pick any kind of thing you want. It doesn't have to be a political or type of thing. But in our case, in Masonry, we're trying to practice regularly the human aspects of the divine attributes that we recognize: morality, truthfulness, those core virtues, if you will, that create a solid society. I don't know if that makes any sense. I'll be quiet now.
No, that was great. Thank you, guys. It's helpful.
And that's Rewa. Is that how you say that? Ray, W-H? R-E.
It's just Ray. I'm sorry.
All right, Ray.
WH was kind of like a last name thing.
I got you.
Peace and blessings.
Thank you.
You know, the question of ritual is always, for me, it's a double-edged sword. I'll be honest. I'm very intuitive, so very rarely do I kind of do the same thing twice, right? I kind of move with the energy that's present, and that's how I move. Now, I do have a sort of set of steps that I go through, but that ritual can take place under different circumstances, at different times. For me, let's say at one point as a practicing Muslim, the ritual of making prayer 5 times a day, there was a point where it became almost like aerobics, right? And the spiritual, right? That spiritual was missing from the ritual itself. And so for me, I always find that that is the key to any approach to ritual, that the spiritual energy has to be there for me first. Thank you.
You know, that's an excellent point. And Zane even talks about in his works that, you know, if you do something repetitively, you lose sort of the desire energy that you need to create the change. Because you got to have that emotional energy to drive it. I think in my own, you know, through my own personal experience, having a morning ritual that can change, having an evening ritual that can change, and having a midday ritual when I remember really are the cornerstones to my spiritual progress. For a while, similar to what Ray was just saying, I just did an invocation known as like the invoking pentagram ritual in the morning and a banishing ritual in the evening. But I did that same one for so long that it became sort of out. You know, I no longer felt that energy from it. So I had to change that up. But to the same point, I'll give a very practical example. I'm in school, and every day before a test, I have the same ritual at that night where I see myself taking that test. I summon the grade that I want to get on that test, and then I manifest that or send that to heaven, however you want to describe it. And then before I take the test, this is a silly thing to do, but I do like 3 sets of 15 push-ups. And then I take some deep breaths to center myself and get rid of some nervous energy. So that's a simple type of ritual I do before a certain activity that I want to perform well at. And I will say, Yvette, the scientific studies around this is very clear. People that did a ritual before performing a task universally across all meta-analysis perform with a lower level of anxiety and a higher level of performance. You know, there's another very good ritual that's prevalent in Hermetic systems is before you go to bed at night when you're laying to go to sleep, you review your day like a movie. You sort of go through your day and especially find those points where you became unconscious, where you really weren't, you know what I'm saying? You were just going through the motions like a robot, and you see what triggered that. And the next day you try to be more conscious. So I do personally think that having a ritual for at least 30 days is what is needed, a full lunar cycle. Let the moon go through all your natal planetary positions to get that energy in all those parts of your sort of body and spiritual being, is a key to success. And, you know, I know we're not, into Hindu or yoga, but that's very much a requirement for any what they would call a sadhana or a spiritual practice in the Eastern tradition, is that you do that for a 30-day cycle. That it seems that cycle is what it takes for that to build into your spiritual body and have permanence. So, for example, I'll give, like, if I do a ritual of protection around my house when I move somewhere new, I'll do that for 30 days. And I find that after doing that for 30 days, that energy is sort of established. And then every so often, I just have to revisit it when I feel it weakening and reestablish it. But in my own personal work, I find it's best to come up with my own ritual, right? I really don't take other people's rituals. I know that's great if you have a system and a religion that you believe in, but I like to pull tarot cards when I have something I want to change, look at the energy that the tarot cards are telling me, do some research around that, find correspondences, find different words to use, and sort of so the process of creating your own ritual, I believe, is sort of plowing the ground that you did the work, so that when you actually do it, it holds a lot more weight. Even in the Masonic tradition, if you're going to go through a ritual, you spend a lot of time prepping for that. You learn your parts, you do some work. And it seems to me in my own life, I do have those moments, this type of stuff is what I enjoy. So I can't get spontaneous energy to do something. But when I put a little work in advance, done some studying, use my reason, use my intuition both, and developed a little ritual, I find is very powerful. And one of the most powerful things for me is chanting in a ritual. And, you know, even chanting the words instead of saying, like, say you want to get Capricorn energy, you know, because you want to move your career forward, you know, just going Capri, you know, really chanting that word and letting that energy resonate in all your physical being builds that energy to make that ritual more powerful. Of course, best case scenario, have a friend to do it with. That helps as well. I don't know if that helped at all, Yvette. That was just from my own personal experience.
No, that's really great stuff. That helps a lot. Everybody's input helped me a lot. Thanks.
But a morning ritual, getting your energy going, you'll find how much more successful you'll be. I'm going to skip over everybody and get to the guest of honor, Doc, even though his hand just went up. But since he joined, I'm going to go to him since I butchered his summary by not pronouncing all the Greek names right. Over to you, Doc.
Well, I just wanted to chime in with a little blurb on behavioristic viewpoints. Behaviorism, which is a type of ritual, reinforces thoughts. At the same time, it is very powerful to change thoughts. To give an example, if you put yourself in the position of prayer, it makes you want to pray. And using ritual is a very powerful way to change any type of a behavior you have or a thought that you have and exalt it into higher levels should you be heading that way in your thoughts. So I just wanted to throw that in. And my picture is very bad. It's going in and out, and that's why I'm not really showing it. But carry on. You're doing great.
No, thank you for the support. And I think you bring up a good point. In my ritual work, I'm usually moving. You know, I'm speaking out loud a lot of times. It's not just something I'm doing in my mind's eye. But I come from a more of a ceremonial type background, so I find the movements and drawing the symbols. You know, if I want Jupiter energy, drawing it helps with my hand. But Audrey, then we'll go to Katie.
Stuff on here. Okay, a couple things. We're talking about rituals. Sometimes there are objects that can put you into that frame of what you're trying to accomplish. And that can be good and it can be bad because you have to remember what that actually represents. Because an example, back in the days when not a lot of people were very educated, the church put out all these objects and everything stood for something. And it was like there was supposed to be a spiritual thought behind it and all that. And that's what they started out to be. But then everybody forgot what it was and they were just basically worshiping the object. And so they really lost track of what the meaning behind all that had been. I like ceremonial magic to a certain extent. I visited the Catholic Church when I was living with some people when I was 15, and I really liked it. You walk in, you smell the incense, and it put me into a frame of mind. And I think a lot of people who've ever been Catholic might be thinking about that maybe that did that, or if they just went into a Catholic church. Not that I'm Catholic. I thought about it. My father said absolutely not. He just would not allow that. And I understand why, because of some things that he encountered from when he lived in New Mexico. But if the object means something, that's when that can be. So that's what I mean. I'm downstairs in the area of my house where I have a finished area, and this is my Brotherhood of Light, Church of Light study area. My books are down here. I made sure I even got them into a different bookcase tonight. And that's ritualistic for me. I've got a Scorpio moon, and Pluto is powerful in my chart to my Sag stuff. And I like being able to do that. And you talked earlier about writing at the end of the day. I do that. I'm sitting on the edge of the bed and I have to journal and just kind of remember what happened today. What did I do? Did I accomplish anything? But not only that, but it's also something to help you look back at that time in your life. Astrologically, I have journaled for years and I've got a lot of books. So I can look back and say, oh, what happened to me the last time Jupiter went through this sign, or the last time what was going on in my life. So it can be a personal research thing as well as, you know, your ritual for every evening. And I wanted to say something real quick about the Leo Aquarius thing we mentioned earlier. I met a woman one time who was Aquarius, and she was so leonine. I'm not kidding. She was, a lot of times Leos can be over the top with how they dress really flamboyantly, and they just like being the center of attention. And sometimes there's like, you know, the limelight and all that. But she was, and I kind of, I don't know how I asked her. I found out she was an Aquarius, and I thought, okay, that's the polarity to Leo. So sometimes, you know, because I'm a Sag, and sometimes I can be a little bit, maybe a little bit too chatty with the Gemini side. So I apologize, but just, you know, some things that I just want to say. I'll stop.
No, I think a couple points I just highlight before I go to Katie is with that, you know, and this may be in manuscripts, but listen, I'm not much of a secret keeper. So if I'm revealing information, but your environment, you know, creating the proper environment for that ritual is important. I always burn incense before we start. Another thing that can help with your ritual, I just did this recently for a financial matter I wanted success with, drawing a talisman, getting a piece of paper, writing, you know, if you, in this certain case, I wanted Jupiter, Mercury, some Scorpio and Capricorn energy. So I drew those symbols in the right color on a white piece of paper, and then wrote the name of what I was dealing with and how I wanted it to go in just short words, and then put that down, and then focus my energy into that external object. It's a talisman to create it and charge it. I'm not trying to get weird here, but you know, these are just, it's sort of like a vision board, but it's, you know, through a scientific sort of way of drawing in the right energies, getting something visually in front of you. And I think the tarot cards are great for this too. And then charging that item has been one of the most successful ways that I've created change in my life, is by getting an object and then charging it with power.
I like
Katie?
that. I like that. That sounds really good. I like it. Doc, are you there? I want to show you something I just found tonight when I was getting my stuff together. Do you remember the book that you and Gishi put together on how to color the tarot?
I do.
Remember?
Yep, I still have it.
I do too. And I know we started out coloring our cards when we were in class. And I know Vicky Brewer also has a coloring book on our website, I noticed. And
Yeah.
I haven't looked at it or bought it, but it reminded me of this. And I think it's just it's a major arcana that she does, right? In her,
Well, Vicky actually colored the cards that we have now.
I know
But
that.
the book you're talking about is the one written by Ken Stone. And that one came out before I even knew that there was a coloring book. That was what, 50 years ago? So the one I made was different than the one that Ken made, and different than the one Vicky made. So go by the one Vicky's got. What I've got is really deep into the interpretations. So disregard that one.
All right, Katie.
I feel very scattered as well. So I was actually thinking earlier today, and I thought that I was going to be jumping around with this, bringing up this thought of what can you do in your dreams if your dreams are your subconscious, um, and can work be done in your dreams? Because I was also wondering, as far as and I'm sorry if I'm wrong on like this wording and whatnot, but the ether, what the ether is in internal and external, or is it just external, unseen? Um, and
Put that into context. What are you
okay,
referring to with the ether?
so I'm still trying to because I know that it's kind of been established, especially when it comes to everybody talking about Carl Jung, that you're in your dreams, it's your subconscious, you're everyone in your dreams, everything in your dreams. I've loved the understanding that I got from the natives that it's whatever's in your dreams is normally your body telling you what you need, as far as health goes, or if there's any issues. But um, if we are um, batteries are filters for energy, right?
They store energy. Did you say battery?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, they store energy, not necessarily a filter, but can be if you're taking energy from something and to something else.
Doc, why don't you explain, I've heard you explain it very well, the difference between the etheric and the astral.
Okay. Okay. Caitlin, you're not the one I've been talking to about the astral, were you?
I think that was Candace, Doc.
Oh, it's Candace. Okay. All right. The astral and the ether are not the same. Now, the ether that Zane refers to is called the etheric plane. The ether that science refers to is basically an unknown substance that comprises the universe. So those are a little bit different and not to be confused. The etheric plane basically holds what's called the etheric body. It's a double of your body. It is not the astral body. The astral body is still living on the astral plane. It is never etheric. It is never really physical, although there are times when it can be. But the etheric is basically an energy form. It's between the astral and the physical, and it is a transfer of energy from the astral physical to the astral. It does not really exist on the astral plane as a separate body. If you're on the astral plane, you are in your astral body. It is a full astral projection. Am I explaining anything a little bit better? Because I can go deeper, or
Yeah, that's
I
completely
think a good way to
understandable.
think about it is etheric is much closer to the physical, right, Doc?
yes, it is.
It's like your
Is
electromagnetic energy, sort of.
is it
Okay,
all here and now?
it is. Now,
Okay.
if you're into astral projection, there are two types, and many people get those confused. They believe that when they get out of their body and they go places in the physical, they go through a door into another room in the etheric body, they are not really on the astral plane. The astral plane is completely different than the etheric plane. The astral plane is very much like this world, the physical, but not exact. It is a place where the astral body resides, and when your etheric and your mental mind is in the astral plane, you see everything in the astral. You're not going through doors and rooms. You're in a place that is strictly an environment. In that place, you are able to see and hear all kinds of things that are on that plane. There are fauna, animals, plants that you probably would recognize, but at the same time, they would be different because they are different. They are basically an astral part of what is actually physical here. Not necessarily the same. Now, there are other plants and animals that are over there that have never been here. They live on that plane exclusively. The physical plane is not something where they will ever, let's say, incarnate into. They have levels on the astral plane that they will rise up to in their own way. On the astral plane, you can see people who have passed in the past. You can see people who have passed in the present. They are all there, but they're not always there because of the fact that they too evolve. When they're on the astral plane, they move up as their spiritual awareness moves up. And many times the us on the astral cannot contact them. Am I going too off base here?
No, not at all. It's all information I love and need. I was just wondering, so what is the dream world? What is that?
Okay,
Is
the dream
that's
world is you.
right? Okay.
The dream world is you, but it's you participating in your own thoughts, feelings, your body, the etheric, and the astral.
Got
So yes, they can all be part of you, but trying to discern which part takes time and really practice.
it. Right.
People
And
who are, go ahead.
no, you go ahead. I'm sorry, honey.
All right. People who are trying to do astral projection, they have to practice at it. It's not something that is normal. And there are many ways to do that. I can't go into them. We do have a book on that, but I don't think it's available to anybody who's not a hermetician. Zane explains it in the award manuscripts, but you have to get to, I think, award manuscript 11 before he starts giving enough information about it.
I
And he
just gotta
does
be
explain.
patient.
What's that?
I just have to be patient.
Yeah, yes, you do.
It's a
I will
dangerous
tell
world.
you, the award manuscripts and the books are all geared to take you step by step to where he wants you to get. And on that note, you may find that if you go through all the award manuscripts, the top one, the final one that comes out, is basically how to do magic. When you can learn magic, you can pretty much do almost anything. You can change things in your life, in your environment. And that's usually very helpful when you want to change things that you're having trouble with in your chart. If you've got some negative planets, you want to change them, magical ritual is the best thing to do to get you to where you want to go. But to get back to the astral, that is not something that is easily done, and it's not something I recommend for anybody who does not really have enough information about that plane. Now, many people actually etherically project every night. They get out of their body anywhere from 2 to 4 inches or maybe even a few feet. And while they're out of their body in the etheric plane, they can see the room that they're in. And they really take that into their dreams. All that becomes part of their dreams and it intermeshes. But trying to discern it is a difficult thing unless you actually get into dream interpretation and can differentiate between your bodily feelings, your mental feelings, and an etheric feeling. You can also pick up on the astral from the etheric plane. You're not in the astral, but you can pick up psychically things from the astral while in that form. That also has an impact upon your dreams. And again, trying to discern all that is something you have to take practice with. Were you the one I talked to about Frederick Pearls?
No, sir.
Okay. Oh, don't call me sir. Makes me feel old. Okay. Frederick Pearls took Carl Jung's theories and put it into a practical method of trying to interpret dreams. And his is really one of the better methods I've found. Basically, you take every part of your dream and you become that part of the dream. And you talk to yourself and you start saying that part, like, I am in the dream. I can feel my hands. I'm floating in the air. There's this person over here. He looks kind of dull and down. And each thought you say out loud starts to lead you to another thought, another set of words. And sooner or later, along those set of words and thoughts, something's going to hit you in that aha moment. And you're going to say, ah, that's what that is. And you do that with each part of your dream. And in the end, you come up with a fairly good idea of what your dream is actually telling you. Now, that takes practice too, but it's one of the easier methods to do for dream interpretation.
That was it. That's what I was getting at of what kind of work can be done in your dreams through it, like being in direct contact with your subconscious, right? I mean,
So I think one thing to think about is 3 types of dreams. One type of dream is you just processing your worries and your emotions, your hopes, the emotional baggage that you have in your subconscious. And that'll just be expressed in dreams. The second
Always.
type of, both of these are out of your control. They just sort of happen. The second type of dream you can get is premonitions. You can get dreams about things that come. Sometimes that's just going to be your own worries. Sometimes it's going to be a true premonition. Both of those things are not really being consciously controlled by you. The third type of dream, which has been scientifically validated, is lucid dreaming. They've actually done experiments where they put people in a brain scanner while they're awake. They ask them to move a hand, and then the researchers map the specific brain activations that occur when those hand movements happen. Then those participants go to sleep in that scanner. And these are people who are able to lucid dream. That means they become aware that they're dreaming and begin to control their dreams. And they're instructed, once they're asleep and they enter that state of lucidity, they do some prearranged eye movements when they sort of move their eyes one direction or other a couple times to let the people observing them know that they're in their lucid state. And then they're told in their dream to clench their hand. And they've already mapped what their brain does when they clench their hand in real life, in real waking. And what they find is that when you go to, just so you know, when you go to sleep, your brain actually has a part that shuts off so you cannot move your body, so you don't hurt yourself during REM sleep. So even though their limbs are still, their brain scans show them clenching show that very same region of activation when the dream hand moves that they did in real life. They also have shown that when people, even though they can know they're in REM sleep, the prefrontal cortex, which is a part of your brain which is able to reason and have logic, normally shut off during normal dreams, is activated for these individuals that are lucid dreaming. So lucid dream is you're asleep, you're in a dream, and then you realize that you're dreaming and your conscious mind comes back online and you can then begin to control your dream. There's plenty of examples of geniuses that were able to do this, that would go to sleep, enter a state of lucid dreaming, and like Tesla or someone like that, and come back with a marvelous invention. There are some scientists who think that this is what man or woman, humankind, we're seeing a higher and higher percentage of people that are able to lucid dream. There are a whole bunch of books that you can look about it, things that you can study to show you how to do it outside of the manuscript. But I think it's important to note that this ability to control your dream state with your conscious mind, just like you're operating now, but while you're directly attached to your subconscious, and in many cases, you may not be in the astral plane, but you're still in control of your dream. The things that you do, if you practice your piano consciously in your dream, when you wake up the next day, you can play the piano better. So that is something that should be you strive for, the ability to do that. The downside is if you lucid dream too much, you don't get sleep. You're not getting rest. So it can have, even when you gain that ability, you don't want to do it every night because you're not allowing your body to properly restore. But so you think about those three types of dreams, right? You have some that are just your worries, your fears. Neptune's involved in this, and Neptune's a deceiver. So you can have a dream fantasizing about this boy, but it's not a premonition that you're going to get that man. I'm not saying this to you, Katie, but you know what I'm saying? That's just your own sort of baggage. But you can't get a dream that's a premonition. But then the highest level of adeptship is when you're able to become aware of your dreams and operate consciously in a dream state. So those are just things. So yes, you can process your psychological issues better if you do what Doc says and work through these things. You can also begin to learn to access the astral world easier when you're asleep because the physical sensations have been removed. You don't have any external stimuli distracting you, so you're able to be present in that world in a different way.
Because
And
that's
it's,
what I need, Pam.
does that
I'd
make
like
sense,
to add,
Doc?
yeah, and I'd like to add a caveat to that for everybody else who's here and thinking of doing astral projection. The lucid dream state is the best and safest way to access the astral. Now, I've got a book out for hermeticians on the Order of the Sphinx page. If anybody here is a member, you can get that book. However, it gives a lot of different ways to access the astral. I would only recommend the lucid dreaming unless you're very well versed in all the others and are practiced in that. Just a caveat for everybody else who might be interested in astral projection.
Yeah, far less of a risk of having an emotional or psychological break. If you try astral projection while you're awake and you're not grounded, you can have some disconnections with reality, which is why there's a system in place. It's not like people are trying to keep secrets. It's literally that you want to prepare yourself to understand these things that are happening and then not get deluded. And then you're interpreting the real world in a dream state, which is schizophrenia. So you don't want to go down that path.
Yes.
I mean,
And
it's good that you got to have that reason, that strong reason to bring you back to reality too, I think is very important.
my apologies, Kate, if I couldn't remember whether you were the one I had been talking to or not. I've got 3 people, and in my old age, I remember what I say. I just can't remember who I say it to.
All right, we're going to turn it over to Audrey, but before you want to do, I'm going to send this tarot sheet. I want to make sure I have everybody. Mark, Caitlin, I guess it's Dot, D Dot is the email, Jay, Darlene, Michael, Ray, Monaco, Audria, and Junius. If anyone else wants that sheet, I'm about to send it. Put your email in the chat. But Audria?
Okay, I want to mention, back in the late 60s, I found a book. I didn't know what it was. It's by Robert Monroe, and it was on out of the body experiences, OOB, he called them. And it was the first book that I had read of any metaphysical importance. And I was amazed. And he talked about going through certain things, and I didn't think I could do that. However, back in the 80s, I woke up one morning. I wasn't all the way awake, but I was halfway awake, and I was floating above my bed. And it was an incredible feeling. And it was actually kind of neat. I liked it. Also, there is somebody you're talking about getting information, and you mentioned Tesla. Who is it? Who is his name? Casey, the sleeping prophet. Remember, he would go out and get remedies for physical ailments and all that. And he would come back from his sleep and he would tell people, and I think he used to say he would get it from the Akashic records. Doc, who is it? I forgot his first name. Casey.
Edgar.
Edgar Casey. Yeah. Yeah. So that was somebody that I thought of too. That and of course they've got the Casey Institute in Virginia Beach, and they have all of his medical things that he did, and a lot of people access that when they're having certain kind of problems. I know he uses castor oil a lot in some of his things. I don't use a lot of his things, but I just know that they're there. Let's see here. Anything else?
Yeah, Socrates also did that. That guy.
Yeah, that guy.
There's another institute in Virginia that I was going to mention. Bob, what's Bob's last name? Monroe, the Monroe Institute, where
Yeah,
they
it's a
do
minor.
this. This is where it kind of started for me, where I was listening to the Gateway tapes.
That's the one that
Trying to,
I referred to before, Katie. He wrote
yeah.
out of on astral projection. I didn't know they had an institute for that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Yes,
in
they do.
Virginia too. Also, and that's why I was like, that's interesting. What's going on up there? What are they
But
doing?
that's the CIA got involved with him, and they're the ones that
That's
came up with that's where that came from.
that's why that's there.
Is well documented. the Gateway Project.
Is that where remote viewing came from? Is the Bob Monroe
Yeah.
Institute?
Yeah, but I don't know if that he was one of the. I
Well,
think Doc knows more, but
yeah, remote viewing was actually coined by Bevy Jagers. And when the Stargate people, the CIA, came to her to find out what she was doing, they took that word, but they went to Ingo Swann to actually
That's it,
create the
Ingo, yeah.
Stargate the body of, let's say, psychics that actually perform the work. But yeah, remote viewing is what Bevy thought it should have been called, and not clairvoyance, which is the normal word that we use for that.
Yeah, it was Ingo Swann, Hal Puthoff, Russell Targ.
Dean
They use,
Radin.
they use a lot of external stuff to do it. They use binaural beats, and they would go into a very quiet spot, and they used a lot of external items that help them enter that state. Ray? Got your hand up, Ray?
He doesn't have his mic on.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. There we go. So Doc, I kind of had a question regarding your explanation of the astral and the ether, or the etheric plane. How would you relate that in terms of, like Audrey mentioned, the Akasha and the Akashic record, or that Akashic plane?
Okay. The Akashic records are only on the astral plane. If you're in the etheric, you cannot access the Akashic records. And I say that with a caveat, because in the etheric plane, you can psychically access the astral. It's a clairvoyant type of method to gain information from the astral plane while in the etheric. But the etheric itself does not contain the Akashic records. Does that help?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
I think a big point about the Akashic records could be that, in the astral world, time doesn't exist in the same way. So through the law of association, you can access information across, the Einstein's theory of relativity at a certain speed, matter is too dense to have form. So in that world where time doesn't have the same meaning, through the law of association, you can access information from the past or present. Now, the future's changing, from the future or the past. The future can change, it's not set. But, you can get information from history and from around the world just through the law of association without having to worry about time or distance. That would be correct, Doc?
That would be right. You can access the astral. Everybody who's thinking they have to astral project to access that information there, you don't. Zane says that intellectual ESP is just as good. And that's basically a form of clairvoyance. Clairvoyantly, if you practice enough, you can access the Akashic records without having to get out of your body and go there. It was a method that Bevy used quite often in crime scenes. We would basically take evidence, and through psychometry, holding it in our left hand, we would write down every thought that came to us. Yeah, Audrey knows all about that. Those thoughts basically is a form of putting information down on paper that you are clairvoyantly accessing from the astral plane. And I can't say we solved every case, but we solved many. We helped the police solve a lot of it. So the astral plane can be accessed not by having to go there, but also by clairvoyant methods, which Zane calls intellectual ESP.
Right. And you use a law of correspondence and a law of association to sort of tap into that
Exactly.
information.
Yes.
You want to assume that vibration of the energy. You're not feel it, but perceive that vibrational energy, and that will help bring you to that place.
Should also mention that there is ritual involved in that. We actually had to prepare ourselves somewhat ritually to get us into the behavioristic view of trying to access the Akashic records. So you can't get around ritual on almost anything nowadays.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it is people who read The Secret and these books like that, they think you just shut your eyes and you're there, but it takes a little preparation.
Yes, it does. Uh-huh.
RJ?
Oh, hey, everybody. And so I was wondering, is the etheric like the boundary line concept, or is that totally different?
The etheric energy
Yeah,
is
etheric.
basically at the boundary line. It
Oh, it is.
is,
Okay.
yes, it is slightly faster than the speed of light, ever so slightly, and yet still remains somewhat physical. Now, the speed of
Okay.
light is somewhat permanent. It varies very slightly, but the boundary line can be accessed at a certain frequency of the speed of light, but it is not the actual change from physical to astral. It is basically putting your foot in the water to see if it's cold. You're not in it, you're not out of it, but you're basically in contact with it.
Okay. Okay.
And that is where all etheric projections basically occur at the boundary line level.
Okay.
You know,
Thank
one
you.
thing that's not talked about a lot when you're doing this type of work, whether finding the Akashic records or lucid dreaming, is that invincible will. You know, there's three things a neophyte should develop: induced emotion, directed thinking, and invincible will. So you have to have that strong belief that you can do it. And that's a lot of this work is breaking down the paradigms that's been put into you by the orthodoxy and freeing your mind so these possibilities on a deep level, you believe in the possibilities. And if you don't believe in it, you don't have faith and hope, then it's really, really hard to get this work done in many cases. All right, we got a few minutes here. We'll go to 9:30. So anybody that hasn't spoke wants to chime in here? Mark D, you can go. Then anyone else that hasn't spoke, we'd love to hear from you. I won't be like Doc and randomly call on people.
Oh, I'm going to call on people. How about B. Sheely? I like his picture.
Quickly, I'm
Good. Hey, good
practicing
evening.
using
That is
some of the
pretty.
binaural. I've been
Uh,
using some of the binaural stuff for
greetings.
We got two
meditating.
people talking here. Go ahead, Mark,
Yeah.
and then we'll go to Byron.
Okay, I'm sorry. So just like to Katie's questions, I've been using binaural beats off and on for a number of years and from different sources. And you always kind of wonder about the efficacy and how well they're produced. Some are really well, especially the left-right hemisphere stuff from Monroe because it was specifically designed for that. But I've begun to experiment with some other people's things. Back to a little bit what Brian was saying, they were actually using Faraday cages in parts of the testing that they were doing for the remote viewing programs to make sure that there wasn't any outside interference. So developing that ritual, the binaural beats are great because Bob Monroe believed it. I believe it also, that we learn a lot while we're sleeping. So I like the fact that this is kind of at the subconscious level, if you will. I have found waking up after using these binaural beats while they're still playing, even if I'm not wearing headphones, a lag time between the time I know I'm awake and physically moving and actually hearing at an audible level. It's like I got to get plugged back into the circuit board here because I've been out there. It's kind of a strange feeling. I don't know what other people's experiences have been, but that's one of the physical things that I've noted when I wake up after using these. I've been doing this pretty consistently for this last several months. I kind of go on jags when it comes to meditation stuff. So I'll walk in the desert for a few years and not do anything, and all of a sudden I binge, and I'm kind of binging now. But I'm finding it very, very useful. And it's helping me. I don't know if we're talking about that lucid dreaming. I'm quite aware of many instances where I've been lucid dreaming, but I haven't practiced, like Brian was saying, intentionally setting some protocol beforehand so that I could identify it in that sleeping state, in that lucid dreaming state, and act on it, if you will. I haven't gone to that yet. but I have had some interesting experiences doing guided meditations that I have purposely memorized, actual out of body, very slight out of body experiences where I've felt myself actually fill rooms or go and expand outside of them and actually shift through walls or floors to a certain extent, which is very interesting. But those are guided meditations that I learned from a writer that I followed many years ago, who passed away, I think, in 2014, Stuart Wilde, who is a Western esoteric practitioner and a Taoist. But anyways, I'm going to leave it at that. I think the binaural stuff is a good, safe place to start, especially if you're not doing the projection stuff yet. Just practice the healing and recognizing that kind of stuff. That's laying the groundwork, if you will, before you start experimenting with the other.
Mark, did you say Bernard Beach? Is that Robert Monroe's institute? I couldn't hear you clearly.
No, Bob and Rose, I don't know what I said exactly.
You said
I was
Stuart
talking
Wilde.
about Stuart Wilde, who was a Western occultist who passed away a number of years ago. I learned a lot of really good meditation practices from him, if you will, for out of body experience and energizing the etheric and all those kinds of things. Because his conclusion was, without practicing the like doing push-ups, like Brian was talking about doing push-ups to prep himself, without doing these physical exercises and expanding and working on the etheric, it's stuck to us like we got molasses on us. So our fields are very confined. And these practices will cause you to learn the ability to expand that field, if you will. Like we talk about, oh, someone's in my space. Well, your space can be like a half a block wide if you want it to be, if you practice well enough. That's a lot of push-ups. So anyways, I'm going to be quiet now.
But somebody else put something out there. Binaural beats. I think that was RJ. Somebody put that out.
Yeah, binaural beats are, we'll go to Elia next. I see your hand. Binaural beats are a system where they basically use different sounds in each ear to change your brain wave to a certain, get it from, I don't know, from delta to theta or whatever. And to sync up, basically what it was trying to do is it's trying to sync up your left and right hemisphere of your brain to be on the same wavelength. I have not personally tried those because I don't like to open my subconscious up to randos. So I'm worried about subliminal message. I have a strong Saturn, so I'm worried about subliminal messages being in there. But they're supposed to be very good stuff. You can just go to YouTube and get them and plug your headphones. You need headphones for them to work properly.
Yeah.
Elia, what did you have?
Yes. Okay. So what I was going to say, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So what I was thinking about was identity and I think like identity, like not being something that's really constant. And like something I noticed about people's, I think that there's like really not a point in trying to hold on to an identity. Because like a tree, I think people are always ascending and passing on what's left behind. I don't think there's really an identity that we hold on to. We're always moving. But I think that most people don't realize this. They're under the illusion of stagnation, that things are staying the same when they never are. And so I'm just wondering, how can we help people to break this illusion and live a more peaceful life?
That's a good question. How do you think? What do you think would be the best way?
I don't know, because people are so much under this illusion that they are in control, and they would have to realize that they aren't.
What would help to break them out of that?
Well, I think what it kind of goes back to what you all were talking about earlier when it about rituals. I think people have if people are going to have a ritual, they have to realize that life has a ritual that we're a part of. So it's like we have to understand that to understand like life, because people think they're in control, but it's an illusion. I think that life is really in control.
So what do you think? Many people are like that today?
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
And yet we still have no way of breaking them out of that.
Are they taking control or letting themselves be controlled? People talk about the media and how people get absorbed in that, and it's almost hypnotic. So that's what I was thinking of.
Book 18 will tell you all about how that happens.
Tina who?
Book 18.
Book 18. And
Yes,
that's
that's
what
the one you're in.
that's the one I'm in. Yes.
And it'll tell you how the media will transform your thoughts into theirs.
Not me. Mm-mm. Let it. No, I'm very hard-headed.
Oh, they
Is that-
love hard-headed people.
Yeah.
You're easy to change.
Well, I try not to let it happen. I try to, is this really what I believe? Is this being fed to me? Yeah.
You
But
said book 18? What is book 18?
Imponderable forces.
We have a series of courses, if you're not aware. I don't know if you've studied them. And course 18 sort of goes into some of the details on what we're talking about right now, is what we're referencing. It's just one of the books that you can read. And it talks about the forces you can't see that still affect you. So is your question is how can you help people who are stuck in being unhappy be more happy? Is that sort of it?
Well, just like how can you help people to realize that they're not really in control?
That's hard. I'll
Yeah.
give you that.
Coming from someone who thinks they're in control.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, what we would say is, what I'd say is if you think about this astrological energies, you know, when people think they're in control, a lot of that due to they get stuck in their own thoughts. And that's very much a Mercury type of energy where you sort of think you know and think you have everything figured out. And the antidote or sort of the solution to that is faith in something higher than yourself. Understanding that there's a cosmic purpose and order to the universe, that the universe is moving forward in a progressive manner, that we're all just sort of along for the ride, even though we're all contributing in our own way. But I think the bigger, hey, Doc, I think the bigger answer to that is you're not in control of other people. So it's very hard to get people to change. And that's people that, you know, there's a saying, I don't cast your pearls before swine. I'm not telling you your friends are swine, but there is a certain point that if people aren't ready to hear something, it's very difficult to get them to understand what you're trying to say. And people have to go through their own life journeys to sort of be open to a higher way of seeing things and a higher faith. I don't know if that helps, but I don't think there's an easy answer to this. I like RJ. She says, become a licensed therapist.
I think people have to realize that there are cycles that everyone is going through, just like the seasons. And if
Yeah.
people understood that, then they would see how people and different events are connected to a larger pattern.
Yeah. That's a part of the awakening process. And it's hard to wake somebody up who doesn't want to wake up. Very hard. I understand that dilemma because I have friends and family close that are just stuck, and you want to really try, and it's a burden on your heart not to be able to sort of offer them some rays of hope. But some people are ready and some people aren't. I think the best way is to live by example and spread your joy. I don't know.
People
I
won't
think,
change until they want to change.
yeah,
Or until you hit them upside the head.
yeah.
Now, Doc.
Yes, a concussion solves everything.
Peace, love, and light now.
Well, I wish them a lot of peace.
Yeah, I can be aggressive in my feedback too. Katie?
With that pearls before swine idea, I'd been thinking so much about it, about the idea of things being hidden. because we have to be careful of who knows what, because it, you know, I understand the whole idea that this is all water we need to tread on lightly. But in down the same vein of us giving people information and expecting them to behave a certain way. And I can't remember what was said in the last Sunday service of um oh no, it wasn't Sunday service. I'm reading the book and it said it said that for Jupiter that you have to evaluate whoever you're going to give your goods to or whatnot and
Yeah.
make sure that they're going to, I mean, I understand that, make sure they're going to do it for good, but how do you know? And it just brings me to a time when I tried to give some folks were panhandling, and I went to go give them money, and my mother-in-law said, you know, don't do that. They're gonna, this is what they do with the money. And I'm like, how the hell do you know that? And and that shit's not even on me. You know, I did what I'm supposed to do, giving them the money that they asked for, right? Does that,
There's a, you know, there's a deeper level to that saying in the occult circles of be silent, don't share. And another reason for that that I really got opened up to recently is if you go to try to, you know, Zane gives the example, we're walking the wrong way and everyone in traffic's walking against us. Most of the people in the world are locked into their thought patterns, into the here and now, and don't see the bigger picture. And when you start trying to explain these higher truths to them, they'll immediately argue with you, and you're in danger of your own belief systems being compromised. That's a big part of not sharing it, because you
yeah,
don't want to
but then
constantly have people telling you you're crazy.
yeah, but that's still on you. You know, if you are, like you said, you just said the induced emotion and the directed thinking and the third one that you're just
Invincible
really,
will.
yes,
Invincible will.
sir,
Yeah.
that that shouldn't matter, because I guess I'm getting at um embodying the Christ consciousness, right? And doing like Christ said, we are here to do greater works, right? Than I.
Right. But
And
Christ still had 12 disciples that he shared his secrets with. And even Harry Potter had to go away to a special school to get away from the mugworts.
man, and
He
Peter
had to
was
learn the truths.
he was always just trashing shit. Peter, like that little
He
scaredy
was.
ass.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know if I.
It's just someday, I think I know what you're saying. You want to just be, and it's not a matter like, listen, you can share stuff to someone, but they haven't done the work. They can't use it really. You know, that's something,
Yeah,
but it's,
yeah. I know that I've heard it over the years, these
yeah,
little things, you know, and at the time I wasn't ready, but after the 50th time of hearing it, I was like, oh fuck, that's what they're saying, you know. So I don't really see a harm in saying crazy shit. I mean, like my family already knows. I've been to the psych ward once and they've already they know I'm cuckoo, but now they're starting because shit's changing because of this Age of Aquarius, Pluto and Aquarius, people are starting to be like, oh wait, maybe this crazy bitch is saying something, you know. I don't know.
yeah. But there's a lot of power going crazy and coming back to reality. It's the danger is not coming back. I think we've all been crazy. I know what you're saying, and don't ever feel shame about that. The secret is being able to come back. You know, but it just you beat your head against the wall so many times, and people got to be ready. You know, Ray and the doc, you look like
Yeah,
you want to say something.
I
Go ahead, Ray.
I just wanted to say that I think we've all kind of had that experience with you have something precious, you know how valuable it is, and all you're really trying to do is share it, right? You, especially with those you love most and those who are closest to you. Um, but again, if they're not in that receptive state, what is it that you can do for them, right? You can't literally do this for them. Um, and in those cases, the best we can do is to plant a small seed. Uh, One of the things that I found remarkable about my own father, who I lost very early in my childhood, was that little things that he did for us as children pointed the way to things that we needed to know as men and as adults later on in life. It wasn't until we actually investigated stuff like, well, why did he buy us those toys? Why was he always calling my brother Geronimo? Right? Like, these were things that we really learned to say, hey, so I've adopted a sort of Wu Wei approach, right? Very much we want to change things for people, but at the same time, we have to kind of sort of let life have their way with them. So we plant the seed and let life do the rest.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Let's call on a couple people. I just saw Mary and Mary M. You're here for a reason. What would you like to tell us? Are you with us? Okay, how about Michael? We haven't heard from you.
Yeah, but you were late.
Oh, okay, all right.
That's a good one.
I guess I could say I've been just listening and thinking there's been a lot of good stuff going on. And I think I have no desire to teach people or to enlighten them or anything like that anymore. I feel like that I feel like I just don't have a need for it. And interestingly, if something's on my mind and I run into somebody, I will say what's on my mind. And it normally works okay. Like it sort of flows and it's my opinion. I think also I just try to be a generally happy person. And even like the homeless guy on down the street, like I give him a smile and he knows me and he gives me a smile back, and I can't really do anything else. If I had some food or something, I would give him that. Like if it was extra and it just worked out. I think I just kind of go with the flow when it comes to helping other people. And when there's time, when people really want to know something, they will come and ask. I don't know. I think I went through the whole, the 90s before the internet, when I was studying spiritual stuff, and like everybody at work and everywhere, everybody was just more concerned with getting drunk or high or whatever. And that was their pastime. And I really yearned to have people around that I could speak to about stuff, and went through, so many years of just quietude. And I don't know if it's referred to, if this is correct, like the 40 years in the, or 40 days in the desert or something, or the whatever it was. And I think after that, now so many people are telling me about astrology from the internet or TikTok, and I don't even mention that I know anything, say, about astrology or spiritual stuff, because they're fairly happy with their 10-second clip, you know, and who am I to add? They oftentimes don't want to know much more. They've already heard it from the authority, TikTok authority. And I haven't even told, very few people know that I'm even studying in the church at all. Like most people that know me, I don't even say it. I keep that to myself as sort of a special, I don't know, something special. And I don't want to share it and have other people think, oh, I heard the word church, or I this or that, or, you know, it's just for me for the most part. And I'm not eager to share it anymore, but I'm more than willing to share, what I know. And it works out okay when I'm not pushing it, when it's just sort of a natural thing. And I actually just met somebody today in an antique shop, and we spoke for about a half an hour. And we definitely aligned on what we discussed. And, that was just a fluke. I decided to go in this place after walking by it, for a couple of years. And, I like when it works that way, life works that way. But as far as helping people, there's not a lot I can do. I've learned much better to be more sympathetic, and I never used to be. But or and I'm starting to understand how, people have feelings and whatnot, and you can't really do anything, but you can, sort of maybe say a prayer or wish them well sincerely, and it it means a little thing, anyways. But it's like going to work and thinking you're gonna, do so many things. Like, you just have to, tone it down. I'm not gonna be all that awesome. I can think that in my head. It's like I think to myself how awesome I am, but I don't need to share it. That was a thought at work the other day. I had to myself when I was feeling insecure. Anyways, yeah, that's all I have to say, Doc.
Well, I'll agree with you on that. Sometimes it's best to keep quiet and not let people know. And I myself don't tell anybody what I'm into. And since I work for the government, I definitely don't tell anybody.
Yeah. You only have a certain amount of energy. So a lot of it's not to waste it, or it's not going to actually make a difference too. I think it's part of it.
Well, we don't really know the difference we make, but if it's the best we could do at that moment, if we
Yeah.
give up, like, it doesn't take me any energy to smile, or
Exactly.
just, I don't
It
know.
takes a lot of energy to argue.
Yeah,
Uh,
you will listen.
Elia, did you have something to say? I see your hand popping up.
Yes, I'm going to add one more thing to what I was saying earlier, and that is that people acknowledge things changing sometimes, but only in certain ways, like the days of the week, or you know, uh, someone's job changing. But like when it comes to like whether plants have spirits or whether you should treat stray animals well, not everyone has the same values. So not everyone acknowledges or acknowledges change, other changes that are taking place every day.
Yeah, I agree. Seems like more than ever, people are living in totally different realities based on what they're looking at.
I
All
think
right,
that's why the tarot cards are really helpful for people. They can actually help you to be aware of other kinds of changes that are going on, like consciousness, as it relates to astrology and things like that. But like plants with the spirits that plants have, everybody's not going to look at life that way.
no. Yeah, I think you're right. The tarot cards are really good at sort of finding immediate what's going on right now, here and now. Doc, last call. I don't know if Doc might have, oh, he's still on. Last call. Questions?
Can Doc say what he meant by title on the t-shirts?
I believe
Can you hear
they
me?
said the Brotherhood of Light. And
Oh,
had a
Oh, okay.
symbol.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Sort of, we saw it for a second. It may be really cool just to get a shirt with the symbol on it and nothing
That's
else.
what I
what this
would like,
is.
a discreet kind of little, not,
Yeah, just
blazing
a
all
symbol
over.
on it. Man,
Yeah,
I'd wear
then
that.
they can ask, what is that? Oh, a little something I'm into.
Or they'll
Yeah.
ask you if you're Jewish.
Yeah, but yeah, the symbol would be okay for me.
Yeah. Start wearing that underneath everything out, like the Mormons with their secret underwear. Wear that shirt. Wear that shirt
Part of
under
the
everything
ritual,
to have
part of
good.
your ritual.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. No. Oh, no, it went out again. My viewer is messing up big time.
You see the shirt again?
Oh,
Not
okay.
really.
Trying-
It has a brother. I see.
Neil, you have to turn off your background. That happens to everybody with a background.
Yeah,
I
You
can't turn it
see.
off. It's a curtain.
but I kind of see
Yeah.
where it says
Now
a
you're going
brotherhood.
invisible.
Oh, there it is.
He's doing magic, y'all.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, the Brotherhood of Light and then the symbol. Yeah.
yeah.
I'd wear
That's
that at
pretty.
conference. I'd wear that at conference.
Where do you get the shirt?
This is from Lyndon's time back in the 80s.
We have talked about it.
We're looking at doing them again.
Yeah.
I'd wear
we
it
just got,
without that big Brotherhood of Light. I wear the Brotherhood of Light at conference, but in everyday life, I just like a discreet little symbol, that I can.
Well, Pat has a t-shirt with a small symbol in the
Yeah.
upper right corner of the shirt.
Exactly.
Right. You don't
yeah.
have people asking questions and getting curious and things
Hoodie.
you tell them. Yeah.
I like that. I think we have a consensus. I know Peg, we've been talking about for a while, but I think just having a shirt with just a symbol on it would be great.
Yeah, somebody said hoodie.
Yeah, hoodie would be even cooler.
Those would be great for the initiation ceremony.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah,
if they
I'd
were
only wear
black
the
and you
title
could get
at
them in
conference.
gold, that would be great too.
Yeah, get some Pluto going.
And if I can get some V-necks, then I'd really like that.
I agree. A lot of shirts are round necks and they're not always comfortable for women.
We'll get on that. We'll get on that.
Okay,
We are looking.
start looking for a printer out in Albuquerque.
I think you can get them all. You can get these online places print your shirts pretty good these days too.
Well, you have to send a copy of what you want. And they print it and send it to you. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Brian?
you can get any shirt printed with any design.
Oh, okay.
You
I
want. Yeah.
haven't done that.
Yeah, upload an image. You can get your dog's face on there, whatever.
Well, I saw one in a magazine today, just a little bit of humor. It says, it's not hoarding if it's guitars. And I noticed you have a guitar on your shelf in your room there, Brian.
That's a ukulele, but yes.
It springs on it, so you know.
Just as a last tidbit for those who are still here, we are looking to hopefully within the next few months have virtual initiations for people to go through the initiation through a Zoom process. So be sending energy towards us to get that figured out. So any of your positive vibes to help us get that sorted would be appreciated to get the energy going there.
Oh, wow, that sounds nice.
Last call. I know we're late here, but want to make sure. Doc, anything from you, sir?
Nothing more, but have we heard from Toe? I think he's waving at us.
Toe doesn't like to speak. He doesn't.
Telepathically sending us a message.
There you go.
When is our next meeting? Is it in 2 weeks?
It'll be in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. We love your presence, Toe, your silent, strong presence. So thank you.
Brian, will people be notified what level of initiation they'll be going into or what?
We're going to start out with just the first initiation, then we'll start layering each one on after that.
Okay.
So that you can go through them all individually instead of just doing one big final one. So we'll have the grades, we'll have the initiation, then the color grades, and then hermetician, but we have a process involved. It's just, it takes time and energy.
It takes setup.
Doc, are you there still? Yeah, it looks like it.
Yes. Yeah, my picture's going in and out, so I got rid of it.
Hey, remember we did the initiation at Gishi's? And
I do.
Yeah, and remember the smoke alarm kept being set off by the incense or the candle. Yep. We all laughed, so it was fun.
I think her father kicked us out.
Well, I remember he didn't care for it, but that's too bad.
Back to our original conversation.
So, we remember
those normies. You got to watch out for those normies.
Yes.
Mugworts.
I will say that the Freemasons have done virtual initiations with great success.
I like that. I didn't know there was such a thing.
Yeah.
It was because of COVID that they had to change over to virtual, and it worked out very well.
Good. Okay.
I'm the hold up on that. I will get busy and get it done. Promise.
Got a lot on your plate already, Brian, because I know you take care of doing all of the putting the stuff on Zoom, not on Zoom and on YouTube, and
He's got a lot of other duties too.
I'm sure he
Yeah.
does. It's just, those are the ones that I know about.
Yeah, my life is about work, so I have no problem staying busy.
That's I was gonna ask, you had said something about people helping. What do you know?
Right now, just
Do it.
see it happening. Just see it, just believe it and want it.
gotcha.
Just have the strong desire energy to be a part of it and to go through it. And your desires energy will just send good vibes.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
This
Yeah.
was a
Thanks,
good one.
everybody.
Full range in topics. Thank you.
See
Love
you
y'all.
Good night.
here.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.